Do this. Let me admit one more person. Awesome. Well, I'm very happy to have you all here. As I mentioned, my name is Damien. I am the host of the Stress and Burnout Summit. I am the founder of a company called Legend Life Global, where my aspirations are to help people live their best lives, especially people in midlife and beyond. So over the last 3 years, I've hosted, I think it's now up to 11 summits, all related on different topics with regard wellness and how we can optimize our lives and enjoy this, what I consider to be the most important part or stage of our lives and the greatest opportunity to get the most out of life. So this is the second edition of the Stress and Burnout Summit. It's something that I thought was important to host. I'd hosted another summit on mental health and another couple summits related to wellness. And what they made clear to me, what one of the biggest challenges most people were facing was dealing with stress. So I personally have also, like many of you, had our challenges with stress. In fact, if you had paid or had the opportunity to follow one of my videos, I kind of like introduced my little personal story. So some years ago, I was going through a particularly stressful period of time in my life. I had a business that was imploding, and I just discovered that I was going to be a father, and it was with someone I definitely didn't want to spend the rest of my life with. And I was living in a foreign country where most of the people I knew had already left the country, and I was kind of like last man standing. So life was certainly not as I'd predicted. In fact, I actually originally said I was never going to be a father because I didn't see myself as being someone who was going to be a good father because my background was pretty challenging. So I was kind of like brought up in an environment where it was fight and flight all the time. My way of coping was to armor up and not feel emotions, and then to kind of be more of the fight side as opposed to the flight or freeze kind of side, which kind of like worked well when I was playing sports like rugby and kind of like helped my A personality type in business. But it wasn't necessarily beneficial in a personal life. So in this particularly kind of like stressful period of time in my life, I thought I was kind of bulletproof. So I exercised regularly and basically thought, eating well, doing all these things. I don't drink. I don't have any kind of like those kind of like issues, but I certainly wasn't sleeping very well. I was like working on very short amount of sleep, wasn't giving myself much self-care. And then I had something where I was in a heated discussion with a staff member at work one day, and then I collapsed. And the diagnosis when I woke up in a hospital bed was basically I had had what was called a transitory ischemic event, or what is called a transitory stroke. So basically, my body shut down because I was kind of like overwhelmed by what was happening. I wasn't really taking care of myself. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I had something that I had another event where over a weekend, I couldn't remember actually any of the weekend. And so I didn't really understand what had happened. I couldn't remember anything beyond Thursday. And then I went to a neurologist, and basically his diagnosis, I had stress-induced amnesia. So go figure. So that there is actually a thing. So it was something that I discovered was a thing. And so I was put on notice that if I didn't do anything, something more dire was going to happen in my life. The other thing that, you know, as you do, you keep on kind of like muscling through. I did make some changes. I did start focusing a little bit more on getting good night's sleep and all of these other things. But The real thing that came and kind of like changed things for me was my son. As mentioned, he was in these early events, but later on, it became clear to me that if I wanted to show up as the parent I wanted to be, I needed to kind of like address the things that were making me default to stress mode or anger and reactivity, which was causing me more stress. And then that's really where the work began on trying to learn how to regulate myself, how to kind of like manage my emotions, all the things you'll discover more of during the summer. And it also led me on the journey to kind of like starting Legend Life After 40 and then putting together these summits. Because I realized that in my 50s now, wasn't likely to be the only person who was experiencing these events in midlife. Because basically, our generation, we learnt to muscle through life. We were taught not to show emotions. Like if you're a New Zealander rugby playing man, basically showing emotions was a sign of weakness. I was also brought up by father who was ex-military. So he was definitely not about showing emotions. It was all about man up, muscle up, you know, don't don't show weakness, all of these kind of things, which obviously, are not things that are going to help us kind of successfully navigate life. So that's in brief why I am passionate about stress. I think it's the one thing that all of us need to kind of like learn if we're going to be able to successfully navigate life. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. Okay, for me, so some people are saying they're having trouble hearing me. Anyone else have experiencing? Should be fine. I'm using a microphone here. So perhaps check on your side because sometimes people's volume is down and they're not able to hear. So let me continue letting people in who are arriving a little bit late. No problems. So I've put together a bit of a presentation to kind of guide you, and then we'll go into a bit of a practice. So before I go into a little bit more detail about the summit, and just to give a few other people time to kind of like enter. So this event will be informational. So you will have seven sessions to kind of like watch each day. But the intent is that it's also experiential. So what does that mean? So basically, each day you'll receive a priming video. So it's a kind of a way to set yourself up for the day and to be more intentional. You'll also have midday, a live session. We'll come together. So it's like a 15, 20-minute session where I'll actually take you through a practice, something that I've learned and used to good effect in my life. And then at the end of the day, you'll also have an opportunity to do a reflection. So the live sessions are important because this is an opportunity for you to practice something. So because what I've found with past summits is people get a lot of information, but they don't do anything. So the summit's great, they get the information, but they don't really apply it. Also, a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, but no real practical experiences. So in this summit, you will have plenty of practical experiences. We'll have the 15, 20 minutes each day. Plus there are some wellness sessions. So breath work, tapping, meditations that you can actually experiment with. So you'll get information and education, but you'll also have opportunities to put things into practice. And I think the practical sessions are definitely things you want to experience. It's also an opportunity to connect with other people in the summit. Because there's something called co-regulation. So when we're around other people on the same journey and everyone's like working towards achieving, in our case, calm, it kind of like rubs off on us and it helps increase the probability we're able to regulate ourselves. So I think these sessions are definitely worthwhile attending. And then even on Thursday, we'll have one other live session, which will actually be more geared completely to co-regulation. And so it'll be another opportunity to learn things. So my objective is that you get some practical experience, Plus, you'll get some tools, experiences you can use beyond the actual like summit. So someone's asking what time is midday sessions. So I'm going to make them like 1 p. Let me see. Yeah, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Because here's some quick things about the summit as well. At each day at 11 a.m., you'll receive a link to that day's sessions. All sessions are available for 24 hours from that point before the next day's sessions go live at 11 a.m. So I'll give you a couple hours before we do what I call the midday session. So it's not really midday, but it'll be midday Eastern Standard Time USA. So that is, I believe, um, so 1 p.m. will be 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But it'll give you a couple hours to watch the first couple sessions of the actual like summit. So hopefully that all works. So because I think it'd be if I did it at 12 p.m., wouldn't give you enough time to at least get in one session. But as I said, these are practical sessions. They won't be really educational, but I'll share a little bit about the framework in the presentation. But they're meant to be short, sharp. You get some value out of it. So let me bring up the presentation. So, okay. So hopefully you can see that. So the session's all about getting you informed, empowered, and ready to change your life. So here's the quick agenda. So why the summit, why we must master stress, a little bit about your authentic self, the truth about stress, what to expect throughout the summit, practice, which is the quick, calm touch practice. Then we'll go into breakout rooms. You have 10 minutes to kind of like interact with other people on this call. Definitely encourage this because this is all about learning that we're not alone. Everyone's going through some kind of challenge. And then this is a way to connect with other people who are going through the same challenge. So I think it's definitely worthwhile. Then we'll finish up with what I call the Legend Life ritual, and then one last thing, and then Q&A. So, okay, so why the summit? So, because stress is not just an inconvenience, it's what's stopping you from truly living life. So, it's about not living on autopilot, not surviving, but actually living life with clarity, curiosity, purpose, and authenticity. So, stress matters because it shapes the quality of our experiences and the quality of our decisions, relationships, and health, and then also our ability to perform in all facets of our life. So, it's something pretty important to get right. So, and when stress controls us, something even more important is lost. We lose connection to our authentic self. We lose choice. We lose our power to live consciously, mindfully, and intentionally. And then this is one of the key facets of the work I do is about teaching people to live consciously, mindfully, intentionally. Most of us are living on autopilot. We're navigating life by default as opposed to by design. So this summit is designed to help you reclaim that. So, why stress matters and why we must master it. So, this is not about managing stress, it's about mastering it because managing means that, it's another thing on your to do list. But here it's learning to master it because stress is actually something we need. It helps us to actually grow. It's something essential for us to actually be able to live our lives the best we can. So imagine a muscle without any stress, it would disappear, fade away until there's nothing there. So we need stress to actually exist. We just need to learn how to master it. We don't need to manage it. It's certainly not something evil, bad that we need to avoid. It's something we just need to learn to live with more effectively. Sorry, just letting some more people in. So, stress is your nervous system shifting out of safety, out of clarity, out of presence. And then when this happens, your prefrontal cortex, so your decision making part of the brain, goes offline. Your emotional system becomes more reactive, your perception narrows, your behavior becomes protective instead of empowered, and you disconnect from your authentic self and move into more of a survival mode. And when stress becomes chronic, it becomes the state you live from. So it becomes your default state. You automatically default to it all the time. It becomes wired into your nervous system and you default to it very much more easily. So it's not a moment you just go through, which is meant to. You're supposed to have a stress experience, you're supposed to work your way through it and then come out the other side and then back into a regulated, calm state. But for most of us, it has become so recurring that it actually becomes wired and becomes our actual default state, which is not healthy for us. So not only does it negatively impact our ability to show up in life, it actually has negative connotations for our wellness. So inflammation is the result of being stressed. I just actually did a summit on weight loss. And that summit was very much about teaching people that a lot of their weight gain was as a result of actually not being able to effectively manage stress. So, stress led to hormonal changes, stress led to impacts on our body's ability or our brain's ability to detect when we were full, led to cravings, etc. So there were a whole lot of effects on our actual body as a result of being stressed. So, stress is something we don't want to have being chronic. We want it to be something that is positive because remember, stress is positive, something that enables us to actually grow and evolve. If we don't go beyond our comfort zone, we actually degress, we actually don't do well. So when we are bored, lonely, or any of these kind of things, we become stressed. So we're bored because we're not actually stretching or creating stress in our lives. So stress is actually positive, negative only when it becomes chronic, negative when it's kind of like default for us. So what we need to do is learn to master it. So the goal of this summit is simple: restore your regulated ground state so you can show up as your authentic self and thrive. So move from surviving to thriving. So what is your authentic self? Well, it's your innate essence. It's who you are at your core before all the different layers of limitation have been added on to you. So we show up as our conscious selves, but not necessarily as our authentic self. So our authentic self is also the natural state that emerges when your nervous system is regulated and when your emotional system is open and integrated. So it is our default state, but most of us are living on autopilot and certainly not from our authentic self state. It's when your body, mind, and spirit aligned. It's when you feel safe, connected, curious, courageous, and purposeful, can access what I call your wise selves. So these are the higher parts of ourselves that allow us to effectively navigate and engage and fully experience life. Most of us are working from a limited self, so we have negative emotions, negative thought patterns, we have imposter syndrome, perfectionism, all of these things. These are layers that have built up and are what I call our conscious self. This is how we see the world, but they're not actually what we really want from an authentic kind of like perspective. These are things that we've layered on due to early childhood experiences, trauma, big or small, that were experienced throughout our life. So we have this identity, these beliefs, these emotional and thought patterns that have been wired into us. We have these attitudes, we have fears, and we have a mindset. these all layers which are limiting us to actually being able to show up as our authentic self. So these are things we've developed to help us navigate life based on earlier experiences. They're here not to sabotage us. They're limitations that we've created to protect us, to keep us safe and secure, because they are based on perspectives and perceptions and meaning we gave to events when we weren't adequately resourced or didn't have the knowledge or skills to be able to give an accurate interpretation to what we're experiencing. So back in the past, we've given meaning to things that we've experienced. And then this meaning is now showing up later in life through the identity we've created for ourselves, through the beliefs we have, through emotional and thought patterns we're experiencing, through our fears, and the kind of mindset we have, which is normally more of a fixed type mindset. So this is definitely not who we are at our core. And it's something all of us have developed. And it's the reason why in my earlier life, I developed armoring, which is these limiting perspectives of self that meant I showed up in life in a particular way and led to me being more stressed. So my limiters had an identity that I wasn't worthy of love, that I wasn't good enough, which led me to being a perfectionist, led me having imposter syndrome, which meant all the time I was always striving, always trying to do more, prove more, be more perfect, all of these kind of things, which led to the events that caused me to have the shutdown of my body through that transitory stroke, etc. Because these limiting patterns, limiting facets of self, which I call the I beat FM limiters, they were kind of how I saw life. Life was challenging, difficult. People weren't to be trusted. You don't show your emotions. You have to work hard. You have to muscle through, never show weakness. All of these kind of things were perspectives I had about life, which led to how I lived life, but they weren't actually the reality of who my authentic self was. And so it's something that I continuously work on to kind of like address so that I can actually show up and truly experience life, not through this perspective of life that I'd created, which were developed early in life because it was a way to protect myself through the situations I was experiencing at an early stage. But I didn't have the fully developed prefrontal cortex to understand what I was experiencing. I didn't have the resources, the tools, the knowledge to be able to kind of navigate this. And so I created this identity, these beliefs, these thought patterns to protect myself, but they didn't serve me later in life and they don't serve me now. So I'm not saying I've completely eliminated, but I'm continuously working on working my way through them. And then most of us have these limiters. Most of us can identify with limiting beliefs. Perhaps we have an identity which indicates we're this type of person, which in reality probably isn't who we are. In reality, it's just a perspective we've created of ourselves. And then this is what creates stress in our lives. And so what we want to do is to replace these limiters with what I call empowerers. So actually transform them into something more empowering so we can actually fully engage and experience life. So to finish up, our authentic self is the core essence of who we are, free of self-imposed limitations. So these limitations are not something we did by design, they were by default. So they were created, as I indicated, because of past experiences we had, and then they now rule our lives. Most of us are working on autopilot. We're working with these limiters. Like for myself, I had a limiting belief, and then also an identity that I was not someone who could be a parent. And go figure, I have now been a parent, a single father for the last 14 years. So apparently this identity I had created about myself was completely fictitious, or just something that I believed because of past experiences, but in reality was not who my authentic self, who is the person who is capable of being a father, who is a caring person, who is a compassionate person. He's certainly not perfect. He certainly has moments where he has challenges with self-regulation, etc. But he's a work in progress. So by removing this limiter and actually changing it for something more empowering, I was able to navigate life more effectively. So once again, I'm not perfect. I certainly haven't mastered everything. So I'm a work in progress, and most of us are work in progress. And that's life. And that's what I believe is the work of life, is to actually show up and look to be more conscious, mindful, intentional in how we show up in life, not defaulting to past patterns of behavior, emotional patterns, behavioral patterns, thought patterns, not believing who we are today is who we need to be in the future, not believing this is our true selves, because this is usually something we've created in the moment. And when we realize this, and when we kind of like understand that we can be fully present, and we can be more mindful, and that we can actually, from an empowered state, create who we are, that's when things actually change, and then we really start to get a handle on mastering stress. So, what are the key attributes of an authentic self? So, there are 8 of them. There are a number of others, but these are the 8 core that I've kind of like identified. And then this is through my research, through a number of different therapies. So, number 1 is purpose. So, your deep why, what you are here to contribute and impact, and you're here to, and the impact you're here to have. Sorry for the typo, dear. So most of us, many of us actually believe that we don't have a purpose, but I believe all of us have a purpose. We're all here to have some form of contribution, to make some kind of like impact on the world. So it doesn't matter if it's big or small, we're all here to contribute. Because if we're not, we're just sitting here surviving life, not looking to make any kind of contribution, which I don't think is any of us here. So our authentic self is someone who's aligned with this purpose and understands that they're here and have the ability to contribute and positively impact in the world. So its second attribute is passion. It's all about your interests, what makes you come alive. Many of us are not living aligned with our passions. So for many years, I just grinded away making money, trying to make money, trying to keep myself busy working, running businesses, etc. But some of these businesses weren't actually aligned with who I really was. And who am I? I actually believe I'm here to help other people become the best versions of themselves and live their definition of living their best lives. So that's something I'm passionate about for myself. So I'm passionate about sharing what I learn with other people. So I've throughout my life been interested in this, and I've always been working on myself. And then even more so in the latter part of my life now that I'm in my 50s. And so this is my real passion and interest. It's not just about working, generating money, and doing a business for the sake of making money. Now it's about doing something that positively impacts other people's lives. So I'm passionate about that, and it's closely aligned with my purpose. So there's also your potential. So if we're not living aligned with our true selves, it's going to be very difficult to realize our potential, and it limits our ability to truly grow and become all you can become, because you're not living true to yourself. So the next attribute is values. So this is what's important to you. It's your internal compass. Many therapies now, especially acceptance commitment therapy, are all focused about understanding your values and living aligned with them, because this allows you to make better choices, decisions going forward. Lastly, another one is vulnerability. So, as mentioned, many of us who are in their 40s and 50s learn to armor up, not to feel, not to show emotions, not to be vulnerable. So when we were younger, we were prepared to show our emotions. We were prepared to be vulnerable. But later in life, as we were growing up, we learned not to be vulnerable. And then being vulnerable is actually who we really are. And then it is all about being able to feel our emotions. Pushing down our emotions doesn't serve us, actually creates more stress. So, connection, we are all connected. From the earliest parts of our lives, we were all looking to feel like we belonged. And actually, many issues that we've developed later in life were when we felt that we didn't belong or that we weren't being attached. Attachment theory is all about a lack of feeling of attachment earlier in our lives. So connection is all about feeling connected to others, and then also more importantly, connected to ourselves, and then also feeling that you're connected to other living things in the world we live in. It's also about character strengths. So these are inherent strengths that all of us have. This is part of positive psychology. In positive psychology, they have a test or assessment called values in action, which indicates that all of us have these strengths. And some are stronger than others, but we have these inherent strengths. And then to live a positive life, live a thriving life, a life that is flourishing, we need to be actively exercising these character strengths. So the goal is to identify what a character's strengths are and then have them show up in day-to-day life. And then lastly, there's trust. Over time, when we were children, we trusted our parents, we trusted other authority figures. And then over time, we lost this. We even lost trust in ourselves. We don't trust that we can change. We don't trust we can do certain things. We've developed these limiting beliefs about ourselves. We don't even trust in our abilities. So we've created all these kind of like limitations. And we also don't trust in others. And then we don't trust in life. We believe life is against us. Life is difficult, it's hard. There's scarcity in the world. All of these things, which is not necessarily reality. So this limits us being able to show up as our authentic self. So when stress dominates our life, these qualities shut down. And when we regulate, these qualities return. In fact, there's a bit of a stress loop. So if we're not living aligned with our authentic selves, this causes stress. Then we have stress, and this in turn sees us experiencing stress in our life. We see the world in a different way, and then this creates more stress. So it's an ongoing kind of like loop that we find ourselves in, and then eventually starts creating these circuits which we default to all the time. Stress circuits we default to on a day-to-day basis. So the summit will teach you the truth about stress. So there are 38 speakers. You've already had the opportunity to look at or experience 8 masterclasses in our pre-summit masterclasses. So there will be another 28 sessions plus a couple bonus sessions throughout the actual summit. So 7, actually there'll be more. So yeah, there'll be an additional 32 sessions that you have the opportunity to experience over the next 5 days. So all of these sessions will, when I try to boil it all down, will teach you the truth about stress. So stress isn't external, it's our interpretation of experience. So it's an interpretation of what we're experiencing in the moment, and it's a perception of what we're experiencing. So it's not necessarily reality, it's our perception of what we're actually experiencing. So we don't see life as it is, we see it through the lens of past experiences. Remember what I indicated, we've developed these limitations or limiting facets or dimensions like our I beat FM, these beliefs, these thought patterns, emotional patterns, etc. And then these are shaping how we're seeing life. And it's this version of how we see life that creates stress. So stress is the meaning our nervous system is assigning to experiences. So when we perceive an experience to be something different than reality, it actually leads to stress. So our nervous system is predicting things as though they weren't safe because we're seeing them through past experiences. What we experienced in the past is how we're seeing this particular event, and then and then our nervous system is predicting based on these past experiences that this is not safe, that this is a potential risk for us. And so stress is the net result. So, but when we change our state and change our perception, so we actually see events as they really are, then we actually remove the power stress has over us. So, getting to a state of calm comes not from removing stresses, but from rewiring the meaning and restoring safety, because events inherently do not have any kind of meaning. We give meaning to those events, and that meaning we give to an event actually leads to us experiencing stress. So our identity, our beliefs, our thought patterns, our fears, our mindset all impact how we perceive the event we're experiencing. And then if it's similar to a past event that we've experienced in life, then our nervous system immediately says, this seems to be similar. So I'm predicting that this is going to be a threat to our safety and security. And this immediately gets us to automatically feel that we're being stressed. And then, even though that event may be completely different, so two different people can see the same event and give it different meaning. So one person could see an event as being empowering, challenge, and another person can see this as stressful, and it gets them into kind of like shutdown mode. So let's use an example. So someone who's a rock climber. So they are, or a mountain climber. So you navigate in a mountain, and then for those of us who are not familiar with climbing a mountain, this will be a stressful event. But for a mountain climber, someone who loves this, it's challenging, it's exhilarating. So some experience, but we give different meaning. Like the person who's never had this is going, this is risky, this is going to be dangerous, I could possibly die. The mountain climber is going, this is wonderful, this is a challenge, this is an opportunity for me to stretch myself, to do what I'm loving in nature, out on the mountain, etc. So for them, they have a completely different perspective, and then the meaning they give to it is exhilaration. And then for our case, the meaning we're giving is actually, this is a threat, this is danger, and this leads to stress. So in the summit, you're going to learn how to calm your system, rewire your patterns, and rebuild resilience from the inside out. So what can you expect in the summit? So as mentioned, this is kind of like day one. There'll be a practical kind of session. I've kind of like talked a little bit more than I perhaps should have, but I like to kind of give you a clear perspective on what you can expect through the summit, and to kind of like indicate that stress is not something bad. And then in the summit, you're going to learn why it isn't, and then how to kind of like transform it and master it. So throughout the summit, you're going to have access beyond the educational sessions to these daily live sessions. So they're going to guide you step by step from stress to calm, from clear to resilient. So there's going to be morning and evening priming rituals. So I'll be sharing them via email. So when you receive emails to each day session, you'll also get a priming. And then in the evening, I'll send you another link. This will give you a reflection for that evening. So it's a way to bookend the day and get you set for the day ahead. So there's been many kind of like practices just to kind of like set your state. Remember, how we set our state determines how we actually experience stress or what we're experiencing in life. And then there'll be a daily live session at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll give you an actual practice. So there'll be many kind of like training just to kind of like explain it, and then it'll be actually actively experiencing it, and then you'll be given an opportunity to go into breakout rooms where you'll be able to kind of like interact with other participants and try to get some co-regulation happening. So, and each of these practices will follow a framework that I call LEARNS, which I'll explain here. So each session will be you'll learn one core principle of stress and calm. Then there'll be a practice. I'll take you through a guided practice, which will mainly be body up. So it'll be actually getting into your body instead of top down. So from mind down. These will be more kind of like somatic kind of like practices. Basically, I'll teach you how you can apply it. So integrate it in a real life momentum scenario. So how do you apply it throughout your day? So the idea is to give you something practical that you can not only beyond the actual session experience, but you can experience it in the rest of your day. Then I'll teach you how to reflect on this. So to notice an actual shift. Because most of it's not about ticking boxes, it's about actually noticing in yourself an actual shift occurring. That's where real change begins to happen. That's the real transformation. It's not ticking off a whole bunch of activities that will supposedly will make you stress less. It's actually about noticing a shift inside of your body. And then that's where you're learning or training your nervous system. This is what relaxation is all about. This is what calm is all about. This is what I can actually do. So I'll also teach you how you can stretch, so to actually deepen the experience, and then also how to sustain it. So how do you actually make this your new baseline, and how do you apply it on an ongoing kind of basis in your life? So this is called the LEARNS framework. So each of these sessions, these guided sessions, 15 to 20 minutes, will take you through this kind of framework to make them something practical and something you can apply to your life. So as I said, like these are designed to be very experiential, so you can apply it. And then if you have been getting my emails, you'll notice I've given you an actual assessment. So what I want you to do, if you haven't already done it, is actually assess where you are today. And then think about this. If you attend each of these sessions, which I will record, you do all the priming, you do the live sessions, you do the reflection session at the end of each day. So that'll be 5 days of consistently looking to work on developing your calm. Imagine what's possible. So then at the end of the summit, I want you to again do an assessment. And then if you've been doing the work, you should notice a bit of a change actually going on. So you should actually be a little bit feeling a little bit more calm. I'm not saying that immediately you're going to be thriving, never going to have stress again, or you've just developed the first steps to make mastering stress an active part of your day. So this is not meant to be a to-do list. This is like developing things that you can use and incorporate in your life going forward. Like I'm not a big believer in that you need to add all of these different things. Like I don't do that. I integrate things into my life. I do things that are part of the way I live my life. And then that's really where change begins to happen. It's when developing the capacity to master stress becomes how you live your life on an ongoing basis, not a to-do list that you tick and then it's kind of like game over. So now we're going to actually do a practice. So this is something I call the quick, calm touch practice. So it's something I've kind of like come up with because I've been doing these summits for about 3 years and I've been exposed to a number of different practices. And then a lot of these practices didn't resonate with me. And then I tried to kind of like see what I was doing, which was similar to these practices and which may be something I could do on a day-to-day basis. So I've tried tapping, which many of you may be familiar with. So basically, there are these meridian points, and you tap on them. So you'd start with your hands. You would, I don't remember it all. You can tap on top of your head. You can tap around here, tap here, tap here, tap here, tap on your clavicle. You do these cycles. So tapping felt a little bit foreign to me and actually a little bit dysregulating. So it didn't actually help me feel kind of like calm. But I dived in and tried to understand. And it was basically about creating safety and security in your actual body. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do tapping. I'm just saying it didn't work for me, and I actually found it kind of strange, and didn't kind of like really resonate with me. Then I discovered something called havening, which is basically about touch once again. So it resonated a little bit more with me, but I didn't really need it because it's really a therapeutic practice. So I was looking for something to actually bring me into a calm state to regulate my nervous system as quickly as possible. So what I kind of like discovered, and also this was the benefit of actually one of the pre-summit sessions, if you notice, and I purposely added this, was an interview with I can't remember his surname, but it's Dr. Dave, and then the session is all about the fact that we have these touch receptors. So basically, in our body, there's these nerve endings, and they're called C tactile fibers, and they detect gentle, soothing touch. So Dr. Dave has actually developed a device which creates small vibrations on your skin to activate this touch pathway in your body. And this tells your body that it's safe and secure and helps to regulate. And Havening does the same. It uses touch to actually help you feel safe and secure. So, and then I noticed that I was doing certain things. Like during this talk, I'm rubbing my thighs, so from my knees to the upper part of my thigh. I found that whenever I was wanting to feel a little bit more focused or relaxed, I'd touch my thighs, or I would rub my fingers together. And sometimes I rub my hands. And this is actually activating these C tactile fibers. So this quick touch practice is basically bringing that together, and then also using breath. Like breath is something that I find is a very good way to get into my body and helps me instantly regulate. So this calm touch practice is incorporating touch with breath, and then also some key phrases like affirmations, which also help um, trigger safety, and then also signal to the brain to try and get you into more of the prefrontal or conscious part of your actual brain. So this practice boosts oxytocin, it reduces amygdala activity and increases vagal tone. So I'm not saying you need to do it, but I find it very effective. And then I'm going to share it with you and then lead you through a session that I do for myself. And then hopefully you'll notice, like I do, someone who is still working on but gets triggered very easy. I find this actually gets me regulated quite quickly. So it brings together past practices and then into something that I find that I do on a natural basis. So rather than tapping, which tends to be like unilateral, this is actually bilateral, which is like havening. And this integrates the left and right brain hemispheres. And this has been scientifically validated to actually help you get to a parasympathetic state, so a rest and relax kind of like state a lot quicker. So the result of doing this practice is the body shifts from threat to safety, and it shifts from dysregulation to regulation and from stress to calm. So I'm not saying that I'm the amazing creator of this new practice that is unique and that I'm just saying that it's a combination of different practices and it's something that works for me and I think is going to be effective for other people. So I'm going to now stop share, and then I'm going to show you the touches you can actually do. So a lot of these are based on havening. So first one is your hands. So basically it's you can go like this, but these are gentle kind of like practices. And this is just, as I said, like you have nerve endings, and this is stimulating these nerve endings is telling you this is like safe. So these are gentle strokes. So another thing you can do is like you can rub your chest. So this, if for those of you who are familiar, there's something called the butterfly hug, which does something similar, but it does more kind of like tapping, which is bilateral kind of like tapping. But this once again, because this is a large muscle area, so there's a lot of like surface area. So once again, there are these fibers, part of the touch pathways, and this kind of like helps you to relax. You choose what works for you. Another one is where you're stroking from the top of your shoulders down to your elbows. So this is a key one from havening. And this is kind of like, once again, because when we cross our arms over, it's almost like we're giving ourselves a self hug. So you notice these are all bilateral. So once again, these are stimulating the left and right hemispheres of the actual like brain. And the last one, you can stroke your thighs. Obviously can't show you, but this is something I do when I'm in meetings. Like if I'm finding that I'm getting a little bit tense, then I'll start stroking my thighs, and this helps me kind of like relax. It gets me into my body, and then it keeps me relaxed. And a more simple one is kind of like rubbing our fingers together. Like I use this often when I'm on the go and I'm feeling a little bit stressed. And then it gets me to focus when I'm trying to kind of like think about something and I'm a little bit wound up. So these are gentle kind of like strokes of things. And then we're going to like incorporate breath as well. So you can use whatever, like in havening, they'll actually move between. There's another one around the face, but I won't show you this one today. They'll actually move between them. And they're gentle strokes. So you're not rubbing like vigorously. They're meant to be gentle because they're meant to be soothing. And this kind of like tells your body that you're safe and secure. And then we're going to match that with like breathing. And then the way we're going to do breathing is a bit of diaphragmatic breathing. So, which is basically we're going to breathe in through the nose and we're going to exhale through the nose. So we're going to do a count of 4. So we're going to breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4 through the nose. And then we're going to breathe out through the nose once again for a count of 8. The longer extended breath actually helps give us that parasympathetic effect. So it's stimulating the vagus nerve, telling us we're safe, we're relaxed, etc. So we're going to combine breath with touch, and then this gets us instantly into the body and gets us feeling safe and secure. So everyone ready to give this a bit of an experiment? Awesome. So let me come up with a bit of a script for you guys. So let's begin. So firstly, I want you to ground yourself. So what does that mean? I want you to plant your feet on the ground and then just do a couple breaths in through the nose. Don't worry too much about how you're doing this. Then breathe out slowly through your nose once again. And then I want you to notice what's happening inside you right now. So I want you to pay attention to your body and ask yourself, what am I experiencing in this moment? So, what are you feeling in your body at this particular point of time? So, are you feeling any tightness in the chest? Any tightness in the shoulders? Tightness in the jaw? I often forget tight around the jaw because I'm a bit of a nighttime grinder. Are you feeling tight in the throat? Any discomfort in the stomach? So just feel your body. So where are you feeling any kind of like discomfort? Discomfort. Then you want to name it. So I'm feeling stressed. I feel tight. I feel anxious. I feel rushed. Or whatever is true for you. Then I want you to give it a number out of 10. Right now, I'm at a what? 3, 2 out of 10. And why does this matter? Because now we're activating our prefrontal cortex. And so we're getting out of that fight and flight mode. We're kind of like telling our nervous system or getting our front part of our brain online. So, what are you feeling at this particular point of time? What number out of 10 is it that you're actually experiencing? So, now let's bring back awareness to our breath. So let's start by inhaling through the nose for a count of 4. So breathe in through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale through the nose one more time for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in again through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through the nose once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in one more time through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now I want you to start continually using the breath. Now start what feels comfortable for you from a calming touch perspective. So choose whatever feels natural for you. For me, I like this or rubbing my hands together. So keep the breathing. So breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do the stroking. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And last round, 1 through the nose, 1, 2, 3, 4. And breathe out through the nose, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So as you breathe, continue to breathing and you don't have to change anything. You don't have to fix anything. Just allow your body to release what it no longer needs. And if you notice a shift, so you're feeling a little bit more relaxed, you may be sighing, maybe you're yawning, and there's a drop in tension, I want you to put your hand, like both hands, on your heart and say, "This matters." Now I want you to ask yourself, what do I need right now? What would help me feel supported in this very moment of time? So take in one more breath, slow breath through the nose. Then I want you to say, I'm safe, I'm calm, and I'm capable. So hopefully there was a bit of a shift. And then I'll give you a bit of an explanation on why we use these phrases at the end. Because noticing the shift and saying this matters helps your brain lock in calm. And asking what you need and affirming your capability teaches your nervous system a new pattern. So it's saying, this is safety, clarity, and choice. This is all good. This is something you can experience. So it helps you recognize, your brain recognize that calm and then anchor it in. So it's called emotional anchoring. And it turns this into your new default. So now your brain understands that you can actually experience calm. You can go from stress to actual calm. So this is kind of like the most important part of rewiring. Just doing an activity and without actually recognizing what's actually occurring doesn't actually change your patterns. So it just kind of like deregulates you, but this is about rewiring. So we want to rewire, so by anchoring. So maybe you can drop a comment in the chat and then how did that make you feel? So Janet says that havening is her primary go-to, and then that's awesome. Like I think havening is awesome. So Judith said she yawned. Um, yes, you can blow out through the nose. Libby asked you can blow out through the nose. You definitely should be blowing out through the nose. Actually, we're designed to breathe through our nose. We're not meant to be breathing out through our mouth. So we have a lot of people saying they feel relaxed and excellent, calmer, soothed. Awesome. Yes, like breath combined with touching ourselves, like the havening touch, um, any kind of like touch where we feel comfortable. Like as I said, you should really reflect on moments in your life when you're feeling stressed and what you're doing with your hands. And invariably, you'll see that sometimes you are like stroking yourself, like I do. I stroke my thighs when I'm a little bit nervous or I'm trying to get myself calmer. By default, I rub my hands. I was doing this all before any kind of like practice. These were natural things, and rubbing my hands as well, like going like this, like going like this. These were things I was doing before I even knew about havening. So these are natural things we do. So you just need the breath and the touch to help you kind of like relax. So we're going to do quickly one more practice. So we're going to use the calm touch. And then the reason I want to reinforce the calm touch is because I want you to use this or something similar to this. If you're into havening, you can use this. If you're into EFT, you can use this. But this will be the way to set you up for whatever other practice you actually do, because it gets you very quickly regulated. And then you can bring in your prefrontal cortex and you can start making some real kind of changes. So now we're going to do this practice one more time. So very quickly, because now we're already a bit regulated. And then we're going to use this to set our intention for the summit, because I'm all about conscious, mindful, and intentional living. And then I want you to leave this kickoff event very intentional about how you're going to spend the next 5 days, because this is where you're going to get real changes when you show up and be intentional. So let's do this together. And then we're going to set the intention for what we're going to do over the summit. So once again, so I want you to ground yourself once again. Quickly take in a breath. Notice what you're feeling right now. Where are you feeling it? Name it again. and give it a number out of 10. So hopefully this number is now changed. Now I want you to inhale for a count of 4. So through the nose, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through the nose once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale through the nose once again for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So keeping up your breath. Now choose your touch style and begin slowly with soothing strokes, either your hands. So breathing, keep up the breathing. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Out through the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out through the nose again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keep this going. So start dialing in and on your body. So how are you feeling? So let yourself soften. Let your shoulders drop down. Notice the tension leaving your body. Then I want you to place your hands on your heart when you feel a small shift and say quietly, "This matters." Now ask yourself, how do I want to experience the summit? Who do I want to be over the next few days? What do I want to receive from this experience? So let one word rise up: calm, courage, self-compassion, presence, whatever word naturally comes up. So when you're ready, type your intention in the chat. Calm, tranquility, regulation, peace. Awesome. So, well, that's your intention for the summit. So make that what you're aiming for throughout this actual summit. So now I'm going to break you up into breakout rooms. So give you an opportunity to connect with some of the other people. But I've got to quickly bring up the presentation so these are your prompts. So when you go into the breakout room, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to kind of like talk to other people. And then the 3 questions you're going to ask everyone is going to ask each other is, what brought you here to the summit? So everyone do a round where we each give an answer to this question. So obviously introduce yourself, where you're from, and then explain why you're here to do the summit. Second question is, what does a calm mind mean to you personally? And what intention are you holding for the next few days? So these are 3 questions. So first person to start will be the person whose surname